Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about somebody that's in the news, and that is Elon Musk. Elon is a fascinating individual. I mean, he's brilliant, he's genius, and most of all, I have to say I like him because he's true to what he believes. And it's not about money with him. It's about what he believes. And I think that's really interesting. Now, you can say whatever you want about him, but let's talk about his genius, his brilliance. I mean, hey, they say he's the richest man in the world now. And he says it's not always about the money. He's always trying to make a stance. He's always trying to prove something important, it seems. I mean, he's come out with the first electric car. And let me say this. I watched a biography about him years and years ago, and he went through a really, really difficult time in his life. As a matter of fact, he was thinking suicide. He lost everything. He was going through divorce. He created PayPal and sold it. And he lost everything, his money. He was in the dumps, and nobody would pay attention to him about electric cars. I mean, the oil and gas industry were trying to squish that. We're trying to get rid of that. And he struggled. But look where he is today. That's very meaningful to see someone that can go down and rise again. So let's put up the chart of Elon Musk and see what we can see here. And I found his ascendant, which is Gemini. For the longest time, we didn't have his rising sign. So remember, the rising sign is what sets up the whole chart. It's the sign that's rising on the eastern horizon at the time of birth. So looking at this with Gemini as his rising, or as we say in Vedic astrology, the Lagna, we got to take note that Mercury is rising on the ascendant, right? And what does that mean? When Mercury is the ruler of the chart, remember I always say the planet that rules the ascendant is the chart ruler. And wherever it goes will be a focus throughout life. Mercury is the focus. Gemini and Mercury rules Gemini, is all about learning, education, mind stimulation, thoughts, curiosity, travel, but most of all, they always are thinking. Always thinking. Mercury actually rules the thought process in our mind. And when somebody has Mercury in the first house with either Virgo or Gemini rising, then this is a Bhadra yoga. What's a Bhadra yoga? It's when Mercury is in its own sign or exalted in an angular house. Now, the first house is you. This is such a powerful, if not the most powerful, angular house of all. It is you. Mercury on the ascendant in the first house. Constant thought, thinking, high degree of intelligence. When someone has a Bhadra yoga, what is stamped on their forehead is high intelligence. Now, I think all of us can agree this guy's smart. He's got it. Mentally, he's constantly thinking and figuring things out. He's a genius. This is profound to see this Bhadra yoga planet Mercury in the first house in Gemini. And I'll tell you something else, probably we don't see so much about him. Well, maybe you do. He's funny. Mercury, I said, I went through all the signs, Gemini rising, and one of the things I've noted about Mercury being this strong, it gives a great sense of humor. Makes one funny. They look at things differently, and even silly kind of humor, but they have a great sense of humor. And to be funny, let me say this, you've got to always be ahead of people in your thought to make things funny. So comedians all have a good Mercury, all of them, because your thought process is you always have to be a step ahead to find the humor in things where people are still back thinking about something. You find that humor, bring it out. So, you know, as I always say, Mercury in Greek mythology, Hermes was the trickster. So it gives this great, grand sense of humor and a love of travel and a love of learning. That is the epitome of Gemini rising. And Mercury in the first house quadruples it tenfold. So looking at that, he even has his moon in the third house. What's the third house? It's more about learning, education, mindset, but also communications. I mean, this guy knows how technology works of all kinds. And what is he trying to buy right now? A company that is communications, Twitter. So with the moon being not only in the third house, but it's in Leo, which is the sign of leadership. His moon is in Purva Falguni. That nakshatra is the most creative nakshatra of all. He has to express himself through his creations. And it looks like to me it's a lot of his inventions. It's phenomenal that, again, the moon exemplifies even more of the number 3. Gemini is the third sign. Mercury rules Gemini, and his moon sits in the third house. The third house is the house of creativity. The reason why the fifth house is said to be of creativity is because it's the third from the third, but the third house is how we create. It deals with communications. It deals with learning. And most of all, maybe you didn't know this, but it also deals with the world of entertainment. So entertainers have strong third houses, but he's in a field of communications and getting information out to people in all respects. And here's another thing that I think is astounding that he has. Very, very similar to Einstein. Because if you look at Albert Einstein's chart, he is a Gemini ascendant as well. And he has Mars and Rahu in Capricorn in the 8th house, just like Elon Musk. Now, the 8th house is the house of research, analysis, getting to the bottom of things, can deal with death, disgrace, humiliation, all these deep-seated things. People with planets in the 8th house will experience all of this. But what I have found, it deals with scientists. Scientific thought, an exalted Mars, and it's expanded tremendously by Rahu. This is phenomenal. He is a genius, just like Einstein. Don't kid yourself. His mind goes that deep with exalted Mars in Capricorn in the 8th house. But he's also experienced disgrace, humiliation from the time that he lost everything. Those are 8th house variables. Plus the 8th house deals with corruption, uncovering corruption. And like Albert Einstein, he was horrified when he realized what his invention with atomic energy had done to the Japanese people. This was where he felt his lowest. And, you know, this is something that I think Elon is really about, exposing the corruption in the world. He will make a major part of this, but don't kid yourself. The world and the corruption is very, very powerful, and we'll fight back at him. Yes, because just moving on, I want to go where he's headed, because there's so much going on in his chart coming up here. Since Jupiter just went into Pisces in April of 2022. It's going to be there till 2023 of April. It'll be there for a solid year, April of 2022 to April of 2023. Transiting Jupiter is in his 10th house. This is social standing. This is coming to the highest point in his chart. This means he will be viewed by the world in a great way with Jupiter there. And Jupiter is going to come across his midheaven, which is the highest point in the chart, and it's going to station there this coming summer month. And I think this means greatness. He will achieve what he set out to do, probably with his purchase with Twitter, or at least exposing to the world what it's all been about all this time. The limitations and the fraudulent ways that communications around the world have been used in a negative way to suppress people and not tell the truth. Musk will do this. Elon Musk will make the difference with transiting Jupiter during this year in his 10th house. And I think it's a month of June that everything's going to come together for him, because not only will Jupiter station on his midheaven in the month of June, but right before that, in May, around May 2nd, Jupiter will cast a trine, a perfect trine to his natal Jupiter in his chart. So Jupiter will come up to 4 degrees of Pisces May 2nd and cast a perfect trine to his natal Jupiter. And Jupiter is a planet that rules his 10th house and his 7th house of partners. So something's coming up here, and his natal Jupiter is in the 6th house, which deals with his work and what he's doing here to help others. That's what the 6th house is about. Another very interesting thing about his natal chart, I noticed, is he has Jupiter conjunct Neptune. Very tightly, I might add. And right now, Jupiter is conjunct Neptune. Now, his Jupiter-Neptune conjunction sits in Scorpio. And the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in the sky right now is in Pisces. So Jupiter-Neptune is essentially in his 10th house, casting a trine to natal Jupiter-Neptune in his 6th house. And one thing I discovered in my work with the outer planets is this, that whenever you have an outer planet tightly together with an inner personal planet, such as natal Jupiter is a personal planet for him, Neptune is very close to it in his birth chart. And what that tells me, this tells me that he will be, and of course we all know this, leave a legacy and be remembered after he's gone. But that's what happens when outer planets are conjunct personal planets in a birth chart. People are remembered long after they're gone. And he's making a legacy and making a difference in the world. Whether you like him or not, it is what he is here to do. That's what he feels like his mission is. He is very strong with his sense of mission and what he's here to do. His mind is constantly going. Now, going back to the transiting planets, I just was talking about Jupiter being in his 10th house and how for that year he's going to shine. He's going to rise above everything. It's going to be incredible. But he's got some very dark energy that's up against him, and he must be careful. They're going to make him look like an idiot. They always do when they want to get rid of you. So realize that when transiting Saturn comes back over his natal Mars in the 8th house, he's going to struggle. Now, Saturn already crossed over his Mars not that long ago, but when Mars is retrograde, it's going to cross over his natal Mars in the 8th house, August 18th, and again December 23rd of this year of 2022. These are going to be times that he's going to struggle, and there's going to be some dark forces coming at him. Scandals. They're going to try to uncover everything and anything they can to make him look like he is the bad guy. But he's going to rise beyond that, because just looking ahead after those treacherous aspects, once transiting Jupiter finishes, it's still in the 10th house. People really respect and like him throughout this time. So I think their mission to make him look in a bad light is going to fail. And let me just say, by 2023, June, let me give you these 3 dates. Transiting Jupiter, once it's in Aries, it's going to be casting a beautiful trine to his moon, and his moon being in the 3rd house deals with what? Communications. He'll be in charge of it. He's going to make a world difference in freedom of speech. Jupiter's freedom, don't forget. And as it aspects his natal moon, this will happen June 26th of 2023. Remember, I'm talking about once Jupiter is in Aries. And by the way, Jupiter will be in Aries from April of 2023 through May of 2024. But while it's there in Aries, Jupiter will cast a perfect, beautiful trine to his moon from the 11th house. Transiting Jupiter will be in the 11th house, aspecting his moon in the 3rd. This will be June 26th. Then again, November 18th, 2023, and the last go round of this Jupiter trine the moon will be February 10th of 2024. All of his missions will be accomplished. Mark my words. So we didn't go into all the details about Elon with the Venus, Saturn in the 12th. Well, really, those 2 planets in the 12th represent someone that's dealing in foreign countries, foreign affairs, with foreigners. He lived in South Africa and Canada, and now in the US. So this is his moving about to foreign countries and marrying a foreigner, with Venus being in the 12th house of foreign people. So an American. And most of all, you know, I see a lot of good in this chart. I see where he really, really wants to leave a legacy that will help change the world. Set it free. Heal it. That's his mission. And open the world even to, well, 12th house variables, which are what? Space. He is on top of it. He's probably going to make us very, very aware of what's out there in space. And what do I mean by that? Not just travel, but who's out there in space. I think Elon's got some connections going on. We will see. That's why he wants to travel. He's a genius. Looking at this chart, don't kid yourself. He's smarter than he even admits. Many discoveries are yet to come out of this brilliant man. We've got to keep him here and protect him, because he has a lot to offer the world. So with that, I'd like to close. Remember, if you would like more information on me, go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org, and pay attention. Look at my beautiful spiritual jewelry with malas I have there. And don't forget, I have classes coming up here this summer. New classes where you can learn Vedic astrology. You can come adept at making predictions and join our wonderful community of like-minded, incredible students and teachers of Vedic astrology. Go to my website, University of Vedic Astrology.com. We would love to have you in our school and work with you. With that, thank you.